Hi, this is Jason Major with the Biblical Cinematic Universe, and today I'm reviewing the French film from 1995, Marie de Nazareth. We'll translate it as, of course, as Mary of Nazareth. And because I'm a Bible nerd, I watched it for you first dubbed in English, and then second in the original French language and with subtitles. And I will tell you that I kind of enjoyed the subtitled version better than the dub version. I remember buying this movie on VHS back in the day, probably like in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I remember there were scenes from it that actually, even 20 years later, stick out in my mind. For example, I remember Mary being like, Joseph, I'm so blessed. I'm blessed. And it's like Mary has no problems, you know what I mean? Like, she just, when Joseph's like, what happened? What happened? I don't understand. Oh, don't worry, Joseph. He'll explain it to you one day, sometime. And I thought that was kind of silly. King Herod, here's my impression of King Herod. King Herod's always scratching himself because he has like a rash or something, like he's dying of like this disease or something. And then when King Herod dies, it's like that. Like they're just really jerks like that. It's funny. And then there were other scenes I remember that I remember this movie, but here the movie is. These type of movies fall into one of two categories. Either you have the Mary movies that are Nativity Story, or Mary movies that are Life of Christ. This falls to the latter, the Life of Christ. And you do see like the Nativity Story, all the struggle with that, with Joseph and Mary, and then you do jump to Jesus at 12 years old, and then it's the baptism of Jesus. The baptism of Jesus I thought was funny. Is in this movie, and the guy who's John the Baptist is cleanly shaved for some reason. Okay, fine. And then you have the Life of Jesus movie story, and at first Jesus is like, okay, I'm gonna talk and use the parables and stuff, and he's talking with Mary. He has a nice moment with his mom eating like some fruit, and then basically after that, what happens is that you see like a scene where like Mother Mary is talking to the female disciples, like Mary Magdalene, right? And then later on, you get into like showing the death of Jesus and then of course the resurrection of Jesus is in this movie as well. So it is kind of a complete Life of Christ movie. I thought that in English, Mary is kind of just ridiculous, and Jesus is kind of cold, but they're okay. And I thought subtitled, their performances stand out a bit, and they're more nuanced, and they have a little. Especially Jesus has a little, because you're hearing him in the original French, he does sound like there's more of a better connection to his dialogue and what he's saying. You know what I mean? When I'm reading in subtitles, right? So I thought this film was like a 5 out of 10. It is a decent TV type movie that you might want to watch, and just if you're a completist like me and want to watch all the Life of Jesus movies and Mary movies, it goes through all the story very familiar, right? And there is some things that feel like an old classic Bible movie, but the drawback is there's not anything like, well, I haven't seen this before, or I've never thought of this before, right? So I'm not talking about extra biblical stuff that's heretical. I'm talking about like stuff that really adds the meat and the bones to like these characters. To like, for example, Mary and Joseph, or Mary and Jesus, where you go like, oh, that's a cool way of, I never thought of that before type of scene. But I think that it's a fine movie, and so that's why I'm giving it a 5 out of 10, and say that if you're looking just for like I said, like the Life of Christ, the Life of Mary up to the resurrection, and you just want to see another story and another interpretation, but and what makes this more interesting is probably the fact that it is a foreign movie, then you might like it. So take a view of the trailer, take an idea of whether you'd want to watch this type of film, but it goes back and harkens back to some of those older Bible movies and biblical TV movies. That's me for the Biblical Cinematic Universe. Until next time, thanks.